I wanted to, first of all, apologize that I don't get to this very often. Since I do all the voices, it is quite tolling, but also the fact that it takes forever to read through all the anime tropes. But recently the newer anime came out, and I don't want to watch it until I finish reading this. So I really, really want to read this, and it's finally getting interesting with Satoko here. So like I want to read it more, but it is definitely I get in moods. Anyways, so last time on Higurashi, we had Satoko's uncle had came back into town, and she's getting abused. Now we don't exactly know the extent of the abuse, whether it's physical. We did see some bruises on her. But the protagonist talked to, like, you know, his friends, and they were like, we tried to do something last year when this happened, and it just made things worse, so they, like, didn't want to do anything. So he left with the coach, just kind of really frustrated, not leaving Satoko behind with the uncle, not really being able to do very much about it. So that's where we were last time, and we just had finished having a conversation with the coach about it. So let's continue. The die of fate had been cast. Reporting to a public agency, which we kept being warned could instead result in something far worse for Satoko if we didn't have the evidence first. And, oh right, and they talked to the teacher, I forgot about that. And just like that, had I failed? Had I let my emotions get the better of me in that moment? Maybe I should have stayed silent and left everything to Mion, since she had been relatively calm. I remembered the punishment game where we had to badmouth Curry, and how me saying anything would have made it worse. And Satoko told us to leave the talking to her. Maybe it was the same thing here. I was impulsive, so maybe I should have just shut up and looked at the floor. But it was too late to lament it. The die I had thrown wouldn't be coming back into my hands. All we could do was pray for something good to happen. Keiichi, you did everything you could, so leave it to the teachers now, okay? Everything I could? If I really gave it everything I had, if I really struggled, I would have dragged Satoko out of her house last night and hidden her in some abandoned house. I didn't, so that means I didn't do everything I could. Stop thinking about it, all right? You're being a little too persistent, Keiichi. At this rate, you'll collapse. Just leave me alone. I left her with those words and stared lazily up at the ceiling. I wondered if I had really gotten Chi-sensei to understand. Would the public agency intervene and solve everything within the day? Would they acknowledge the abuse and guarantee her safety? After lunch break, our afternoon classes were mostly self-study. The teachers came back to the classroom occasionally, but then the phone in the lounge would ring, and she'd have a long conversation. Everyone in the class got the feeling they knew what these phone calls were about. Sensei came trotting back from the classroom. I'm really sorry for all the phone calls recently. Let's call it a day. President, please lead the class. Everybody stand up. It looked to me like Sensei had been wearing a dark expression ever since after lunch. It wasn't very relieving expression. It wouldn't be. Even if Sensei 100% understood the situation and passionately explained it to the other person, at the end, the child Center as a public agency would be the ones to decide whether to get her to safety. Since they understood that as well as us, and that's why she looked so unreliable right now. Okay, let's go home. I don't think anyone feels like having the club today. Me? It's no fun if someone's not here. Mina was right. It was no fun if someone was missing. If the teacher's expression had shown more promise, then maybe we could have gone home more comfortably. But I couldn't let myself feel relieved. I couldn't be naive and tell myself all I can do is pray now that the dice had been cast. Just in case they didn't get her to safety and decided to wait and see again, I needed to take further measures. We've asked the people who could do something official already. Then there was one more place that was worth asking for help. She might laugh it off, or I might be right, and I could be endangering my own life. But I'd try. Mion, is it okay if I stop by your place today? You've got a lot of manga, right? I want to borrow a bunch of them. Huh? Sure, I guess. There was an ominous meaning behind my words, so Mion realized what I meant right away. I wanted to talk about something alone. That's what I meant. Mi-chan, Keiichi, let's go home! Mina already had her shoes on and was waving to us from the schoolyard. Mion's house was gigantic in every way imaginable. The house itself was a vaguely old-fashioned, traditional Japanese house, but the yard, I guess, or their plot of land, was enormous. It easily convinced me that they were major landowners with Hinamizawa under their thumb. I don't like coming to this house anytime in any story. Mion brought me through the guest room and a servant brought us some tea. Wow, you really are rich, huh? You even got housekeepers? Grandma and I are the only ones who live here. I wouldn't be able to do everything myself. The servant left, telling us it was 5 o'clock, then withdrew with soft footsteps. We have people come in to take care of Grandma and clean 2 or 3 times a week. They come in rotations of 3 or 4, so there's someone here almost every day. Only until evening, though. Oh, and if we're having a party or something where we need more help, we call up different people. If you had the money to hire all these people, then just take Satoko in. I glared at her as I thought that, and Mion seemed to catch on immediately. Sorry. It's fine. I know it's not a money problem. Just to be clear, my family may be rich, but it's not money that I can use freely for myself, okay? I don't want you to misunderstand that. It kind of looked like I was bullying her. Mion had been apologizing to me a lot lately. Was Mion the sort of person who would do that this much? Maybe it's just that I've been looking so grim. So, what's up? You had something to talk about, right? I have something pretty serious to discuss, Mion. This will be sudden, and you might be surprised, but I want you to hear me out. Huh? What? I'll give you a way out first. Even if what I say is true, you don't need to admit it. You're allowed to play dumb, but I want you to listen to the end. I have something to say to the next leader of what's still the most important of the 3 families of Onigafuchi Village, Mion Sonozaki. At first, Mion looked like she had no idea what I was saying. But at hearing the whole sentence and putting it together, she reacted. Where did you hear that? it doesn't really matter. I definitely couldn't tell her who told me. Takano, you told me not to, but please forgive me. This is why I asked you about it after all. I was surprised that you heard of Onigafuchi Village, Kei. But you seem to know a lot of things, both true and false. About me, too. Yeah. True and false. I really might just have the wrong impression here, but I'm okay with that, so listen. And if it really is true, I don't know what you're getting at, Kei-chan, but let me say this beforehand. You've got a big misunderstanding, so if it were possible, I wouldn't want to hear what you're about to say. Because even if you said it, I can't do anything to help you. Still, if talking about it will lighten your burden even a little, I'll listen. I'm only just going to listen. Nothing more will happen. Are you okay with that? Yeah. Mion seemed to know what kind of thing I'd be talking about. He wants to ask her, like, since she's the next leader, something about the spiriting in a way. To make the uncle get spirited away, probably. She warned me that doing so would be fruitless. That much was obvious. If what I was going to say was true, then the Sonozaki family would be the masterminds behind the string of freak deaths that had been occurring every year in Hinamizawa. Yeah. You know that stuff about Oyashiro-sama's curse, right? Mion nodded a little. No one knows what it is or why it happens. Even if each incident is solved, the string of deaths and accidents as a whole is still a mystery. But there's one thing connecting them all. And that's how the targets are always enemies of the village. Seems like it. Mion spoke as if it didn't relate to her. That was fine. She didn't have to admit it. For now, I just wanted her to stay quiet and listen to me. The day after tomorrow is Wadanagashi, right? Has the sacrifice for this year's curse been decided already? Mion didn't answer. Her expression remained the same, too. The fact that he's, like, saying this to her is very brave and stupid because, yeah. Like she said, she was just quietly listening. Sorry. The promise was you just listen, so it's weird for me to ask a question, huh? Mion gave me a look like she'd never given me one before. A faraway look. A sympathetic one. Well, because now that he told her that she has to kill him. She didn't nod. She just smiled faintly and listened to me. If this year's curse isn't going on to be on Satoko's uncle, then please change it to him. I mean, last year it was her aunt, right? It's in the right order, so it wouldn't be weird. You're right. It seems like there's an order. I mean, after her aunt died to the curse last year, he abandoned Satoko and fled into the town for a whole year. Why wouldn't a guy like that definitely be on Oyashiro-sama's list? There shouldn't be any issue with choosing him this year. I see. If he were to die from the curse this year, no one would see anything unusual about it. I heard that Oyashiro-sama's curse is, well, no matter how I looked at it, I wasn't sure whether I should continue. No matter how I tried, the words wouldn't come out. The string of freak deaths in Hinamizawa, also called Oyashiro-sama's curse, you're saying they're incidents perpetrated by the village, carried out by the three families at the Sonozaki's instructions? Is that it? I wasn't. I don't care one bit whether you have anything to do with it. I'm just saying, if you have any way of communicating with whoever decides the targets of the curse, then I just want you to tell them to choose Satoko's uncle. Please. Everything you've been saying has been terrible. If the freak death incidents in Hinamizawa were carried out by the will of the Sonozaki family, that would mean the main culprit would be me, wouldn't it? I would have chosen the target for the curse, given the instructions, killed many people, and gotten rid of others. You're calling me a murderer, Kay. I didn't say that. Didn't you listen to me? I don't care whether you're the one behind the murderers or not. I just don't. You literally are calling her a murderer. I mean, she is, to be fair, but... Even if you were the culprit, it doesn't change the fact you're my friend. It doesn't matter at all. If the police were chasing you, I'd come help. I'd make you an alibi, even help you escape. Because we're friends and comrades, aren't we? Mion looked surprised for a while. She was dumbfounded. Now you're declaring yourself complicit? Kay, that's pretty bold of you. Come on, don't interrupt. Satoko's uncle, choose him! Stop right there, Kay. I want to start the dinner soon, so I'd like to leave things at this. Mion! I then realized that my cheeks were wet with tears. They slid down my chin and fell, dropped to the tatami mat. It's like I said at the start. You've got a big misunderstanding. Oyashiro-sama's curse is just that. Even if there were people behind these incidents, they don't have anything to do with the Sonozaki family or me either. Bullshit. Right. I understand that. It's just... It was touching to hear such a desperate plea, Kay, but that was all it was. Even if I wanted to help, I can't. You understand that too, right? Yeah. But now I know how you feel so well it hurts. If I really were, like you said, the one controlling 3 years and choosing the sacrifice every year, I'd probably grant you your wish. Mion? But the reality is different. I'm just Mion Sonozaki. My family may be the subject of all sorts of bad rumors about controlling Hinamizawa from the shadows, but we have nothing to do with the freak incidents. This is such a weird conversation because it's like he's upset that she's not a serial killer, but she actually is a serial killer. Well, to be fair, I guess I don't know that. Well, we do know that from the last one. We may have been a little extreme during the dam war, but that's all. We would never do something so insane as to kill people. Don't say such sad things. Right now, at least, I don't care. Why can't you just be nice and lie to me? This logic is so fucked up, I can't even... You want her to say that she's a serial killer, and that would make you feel better. Kay, you're free to believe what you like. If I lied to you now, you'd be convinced Satoko would be freed the night after tomorrow, and you'd be able to shed much of your burden. However, reality is harsh. Satoko's uncle will survive beyond that day. He'd still be alive next week and the week after that. You need to prepare yourself for that. I don't want you coming to me the day after Wadanagashi and demanding to know why he wasn't killed. Mion stood up slowly and closed the sliding door to keep out the wind that had grown chilly. Was it Mio? Did she give you all those ideas? She really likes to misunderstand things about Hinamizawa. Well, we can let her have her fun, but I don't really want her influencing you, Kay. Oh, shit. Who's Mio? Is that the blonde girl? This is why outsiders are no good. Takano-san has nothing to do with it. Right. Don't worry. Even though I know she told you about it, Kay, nothing's going to happen. It's not like Mion will be chosen for this year's curse. Besides, we don't even know for sure if the curse will happen this year. She literally just told you. Maybe it was just all a pile of unfortunate coincidences. Thanks for listening. If you aren't connected to the serial deaths, then it must have been an uncomfortable conversation. I'm sorry. I see. You'll apologize for it? What a strange conversation. Mian said she didn't have much time, but she still brought me to the gate. She said she had a meeting or something today about Sunday's Watch Nagashi festival. So there would be a lot of people from the town council and the festival committee coming. You mean people to choose maybe the next victims of the curse? Despite her day being so busy, she still listened to what I had to say, which is the strangest conversation ever, that you wish your friend was a serial killer. Let's just put that. I have to remember that this boy is so upset because there's nothing he can do, and I understand that feeling of helplessness. So I have to keep that in mind when I read this and not be too judgmental towards him, because there's a lot of shit happening to him over a very short amount of time. His friends betraying him, him not being able to help someone he cares about. But still, it's a very strange conversation. If there's a God in heaven, then he probably understands how strongly you feel. Yeah. I'm really sorry for being so weird today. You can pretend like this discussion never happened if you want. Okay. I'll forget about it. Okay. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. I had really only spent a short time with Mion. Talking to her made me think. It was clear that what Takano-san had told me at least wasn't a complete fabrication. If Mion was really, really unconnected to the incidents, then she probably wouldn't have listened to me so quietly. No, I think she would have, because she's not going to blurt out and say that she is to someone. She heard me out until I was done without making any quips, and I wanted to think that was proof. And she knew what you were going to ask beforehand, because she knows everything. So she knew about Takano telling you. I did kind of feel like I was grasping at straws. Of course, thinking back on it, it was a terrible thing to discuss. I mean, I went to my friend's house, called her a serial murderer, and then told her to kill Satoko's uncle. I was the only one talking that whole time. Mion quietly listened to everything I had to say, like a pastor listening to a confession. She could have gotten angry partway through, told me off, go wash my face in miso soup and come back later, but she didn't. Was that proof that Mion's family, the Sonozaki, were the masterminds? Or was she just listening because she felt sorry for me going kind of crazy? I didn't know which it was, but it was the one effort I could make at the moment. It was another form of insurance, should worst come to worst, and the public agency decided to wait and see. It was completely a useless resistance, literally grasping at straws. Sensei said that if she reported it to the Child Consultation Center, they'd have to respond on the same day. Could they already be in the middle of responding to it now? If Satoko came to school tomorrow morning, all energetic, then everything would be just a needless fear. Why couldn't tomorrow come faster? That night was unusually hot and humid, and I couldn't get to sleep. I said all of that. They couldn't possibly decide to wait and see again this year. Satoko, what was it like for her tonight? Had she tested the end of her nightmare, enjoying a night of liberation? I actually put my hands together and prayed into my futon. Good morning, Kiki. Morning. Thank goodness. I thought you overslept today, too. Your mom said you were gone on ahead yesterday, and then you weren't at school. I was worried you got heat stroke halfway there. Yeah, I'm very sorry for all the worry I caused yesterday. Good morning. Oh my gosh, my cat hears the birds. Nami, where are those birds where it's coming from? She's like looking around for birds. Me, good morning. Wow, you really stink of liquor. You'll get found out for sure. Oh, right. Wasn't there a big business meeting with all the people on the town council yesterday? They only called it that. It was more like a party. We have the festival every year, right? We wouldn't have any annoying meetings at this point. Are you going to help out with the festival this afternoon then? Yep. I have to do a meet and greet with all sorts of people in Grandma's place. Besides, they already started setting up for the festival. Our morning conversation was lighthearted as usual. It looked like Mion had thankfully forgotten about how I barged into her house yesterday with that crazy talk. The more I think back on it, I felt like I'd really said something terrible to her. I was so thoughtless, and it would have been weird if she yelled at me. It was highly possible Takano had exaggerated her story. To think that our comrade and friend Mion, the young leader of the Sonozakis, was one of the three families effectively controlling Hinamizawa, was pulling the strings behind the serial death incidents was a little unbelievable. But if there was even a 1% chance that it was true, then what I said yesterday to Mion might have been a success. Yes, it was no more than 1 in 100. But that little bit of effort might have brought the chances of saving Satoko up by even a tiny bit. Have you ever thought of the fact that Satoko's entire family got killed by this curse, so Satoko might be subject to this curse? At least I'd made that effort to ask somebody to kill somebody. After yesterday ended, I was sure I'd done everything I possibly could. If there was something else I could do, it was probably just to clap my hands and pray that Satoko's uncle would be killed by that curse. So, I'll admit that I got this far in the anime, so I actually know what happens, if it's the same as the anime. But, I mean, clearly this is a little more fleshed out. I hope Satoko makes it today. Me too. Sensei's doing things for her, right? I'm sure it'll be fine. My aunt is a welfare agent in the Hinamizawa district. I gave her a call last night. I didn't know your aunt was a welfare officer. What happened? Did you tell her about Satoko-chan? Chi-sensei called the child consultation center right after we talked to her. A child welfare officer apparently visited the night before the night was over. My aunt said that they were going to pay visits at regular intervals from now on. Enough with the dumb little stuff. I want to know what happened to Satoko. Did they get her safe? My aunt wasn't informed at that. I was supposed to keep this as a secret anyway. Her telling me was a big breach of ethics in the first place. Damn it. That makes me feel even worse. Let's get to school. Right. Discussing this would make us just feel more bad. It was far quicker to go to school and see if Satoko was safe or not. The three of us nodded and ran off. Was Satoko safe? What measures had the Child Consultant Center taken? I didn't care what, as long as we could get back to our peaceful life with Satoko today. It didn't matter to me. This is actually the sad thing about... So I watched this movie on Netflix called Mother, a Japanese movie, about a mother who abused her son. And he was so brainwashed that he ended up killing his grandparents for her. And the worst part about it wasn't what she was doing. It was what the people who saw it didn't do. Like, they ended up in like a homeless shelter type thing. And there was a nice lady, like, teaching him English, or teaching him, like, school. And she saw it happening, and she didn't say anything, didn't go to the police. The grandparents saw it happening, didn't go to the police. The sister just kicked her out and didn't go to the police. Like, nobody wanted, like, helped the kids. And so it just, like, brings it back with, like, this chapter here, is that it's so hard to help. Like, it's incredibly challenging to help, like getting the police involved and getting Child Consultation Center involved. And like, if you've ever seen Erased, they actually, like, if she's getting abused too, they actually, like, kidnap her. I know, they, like, kidnap her to, like, make it so that the mom has, like, proof of negligence because she didn't, like, try to find her at all. Like, they go to those extreme matters to, like, help her in Erased. So it's... Now, I don't really know about real life, but I can imagine that it's probably challenging. And then also, like, I myself was abused when I was a girl. Anyway, sorry. Like, as I was saying, like, I was abused as a girl, as well. And I was too scared to talk. Like, my mom didn't know anything about it. It's by my brother. But, yeah, she didn't know anything because I was too scared to talk. So it's hard. It's hard to help. At the shoe racks at the entrance, Reina took a peek into Satoko's shoe cubby. Satoko's shoes are here! They're here! Kay, Satoko came! Thank goodness. We don't know if anything happened just because she came to school. We can't know anything until we see her face. We trotted towards the classroom. The classroom was lively, as it usually was in the morning. Satoko! Where are you? Meep. She's right here. It's too early in the morning to be so loud. Would you please keep it down? Satoko! Are you okay? All of our friends crowded around Satoko excitedly. A probation officer came, right? How did it go? Who was it that called them? I swear it was quite a mess, you know. It was a teacher. You were absent for so long, of course she was worried. Satoko said, I told you I'm fine, under her breath. She was still trying to overcome all the suffering on her own. It was a big bother to me and my uncle. That person just barged in on us suddenly. Jeez. Everyone was worried about you, Satoko. Don't say it was a bother. Ugh. Anyway, what happened? Oh, wrong person. Nothing happened. My cold got better, so I came back to school, that's all. I can't take too much time off from now, because then you'll all worry about me. What was Satoko saying? What happened so well, your uncle? Oh, he admitted there was some misunderstandings, and we both apologized. Tug. Rika grabbed the back of my collar and pulled me away. What is it, Rika? Rika silently dragged me all the way into the hallway. Rika, what did that mean? Satoko said nothing was happening and chased them away. That idiot. But why? No. Somewhere in my mind, I thought it might turn out like this. Satoko didn't ask for anyone's help. She didn't hide behind anyone. She was trying to ride out this pain. She wanted to show Satoshi the proof if he came back to them. She wouldn't need to hide behind him anymore. But Coach said probation officers can bring her to safety in an emergency, even if it's against her wishes. However much Satoko denies the abuse, it's a fact. Chisensei finally came. Her expression was far from cheerful. Yes, you're right, Maibara. If the child welfare officer determines that it's an emergency, they have the right to immediately take them to safety, regardless of the affected party's intent. Then why? Why is Satoko intent being respected so much? It's weird. Why don't they put her into safety? Well, after the person in charge at the Child Consultation Center looked into it from many angles, they determined... What the hell is that? Sensei, did you say it was going to be all right? You'd definitely save her? What's the meaning of this? This doesn't make any sense. Answer me, damn it! Keiichi, this is actually the third time someone has reported Satoko's child abuse. It happened twice in the past, too. Furude-san. Sensei tried to stop her, but Rika went on speaking anyway. Twice? I heard they decided to wait and see after reporting in the winter before last, but it happened before then, too? Satoko's father, who died, wasn't her real father. What? Rika, that's... What? I'm stunned at the sudden revelation. I had no idea what Rika wanted to tell me, but it did seem really important, so I couldn't get a word in either. Satoko's mother remarried. She brought Satoko and Satoshi with her, so they weren't related to the blood to their father. Satoshi was a good kid, one who listened politely to what adults told him. He immediately welcomed by their new father and was loved. Who's talking? Is it I'm going to assume it's Rika. But Satoko was different. She was rebellious, told lies, she played pranks. Her stepfather didn't like her at all. What? So, what do you mean? Even before she was given to their uncle and his wife, Satoko didn't have a very good relationship with her family. Of course, her stepfather didn't have any malicious intent at the start. At first, he must have worked very hard to get his new daughter to accept him. But the young Satoko didn't make any effort at all towards that end. She was distant towards her stepfather and never opened her heart to him even a little. She just got on his nerves all the time with seemingly forced lies and pranks. Her father's discipline and punishment must have been loving at first, of course, but that too faded quickly. I don't know because I wasn't in Hinamizawa at the time, but I learned this on the phone yesterday. What story did you hear, Sensei? That Satoko wanted to trick her parents, especially her stepfather, so she inflicted wounds on herself so she could make up a false story about abuse, and that she sent out an SOS herself. That's why they don't believe her. She made up a story about hurting herself? Satoko made a fake phone call to try and get rid of the father she hated. Child welfare officers rushed there and heard the story. Her father genuinely apologized for a few times when he had gone too far and agreed to let the child welfare center give him coaching. Related agencies looked into it quite a bit. They determined that Satoko and her stepfather's hearts not being quite matched up was the cause of the incident. But they found another problem above that, with Satoko. A problem with Satoko? What was it? Satoko's mother. There were a few times where she had lived with de facto husbands. Through those relationships didn't result in remarriage. From a young age, Satoko had been forced to call at least 2 or 3 people her father. At some point, Satoko's pranks escalated. She would spill food on purpose, turn over her plate, even throw it. She'd break the windows in the neighborhood, shoplift candy. She would put thumbtacks everywhere, set up traps to seriously hurt people. Not in the way she did now, just to get laughs. She was also fond of telling lies that would be found out right away, and people got mad at her every time. But she never, ever changed her behavior. Please don't think Satoko was a problem child. Satoko was young. It was an act of self-defense that she had to take against the unknown men her mother had chosen. In regards to Satoko's problematic behavior, child psychology experts from public institutions indicated her actions were to draw her mother's attention to herself. They acknowledged that she had a form of harmful emotional trauma and declared that she needed counseling and therapy from professionals. They didn't know whether that therapy had healed the wounds in her heart. Satoko purposely hurt herself and told them that she was being abused by her stepfather in an attempt to chase him out. But in the end, her stepfather did abuse her, right? No. All of the abuse had been made up by Satoko. Her stepfather, of course, may have scolded her in somewhat emotional way, but it was nothing out of the ordinary. Satoko had lied to chase away her stepfather, and they saw through her right away and found out that Satoko had issues. Could it be that's why the winter before last they decided to wait and see? Yes. The Child Consultant Center had all the past records. So they needed to act carefully in case Satoko was lying. What the hell? So what? Satoko might be telling a lie, so they needed to be careful? So how does that mean they just end up waiting and seeing? It was the girl who cried wolf. The fable about. Telling a lie once, making others unwilling to believe you later. That's bullshit. The past has nothing to do with this, does it? Yeah, it kind of makes sense. Only what's really happening right now is important. Satoko is being abused by her uncle. Why? Why is something that happened in the past getting in the way of helping her now? Neither Sensei nor Rika-chan had anything to say to that. Anyways, yesterday a probation officer visited to carefully determine what was going on. And Satoko dealt with them, put on the best, strongest smile she could manage, and denied the abuse. Of course, she was probably being threatened to keep quiet about it by her uncle. Satoko was trying to outlast everything without asking for any help. Satoko wanted to wait for Satoshi to come back home, and she outright denied the truth of the abuse. What an idiot. What? You're not really enduring it. Do you really think pretending like this will actually bring Satoshi back? Just stop it. Satoshi, he abandoned you. And the fact that he hasn't shown up to save you now is proof, isn't it? So just stop it. Please. Stop being weird and pretending to endure it. Forget everything we just said. Understand? If you tell anyone else, your teacher will be very mad with you. Chi-sensei gave me a warning, then left to go back to the teacher's lounge. Keiichi, please don't think Satoko is a pathetic, pitiful girl. She's living life. She is... I know that. She's our irreplaceable friend. Satoko is still trying her best. Let's watch over her for a little longer. The person from the consultation center said they'd visit periodically from now on. If something terrible happens, they'll help her right away. Yeah, but only after it happens. Any more than that would have sounded like I was picking a fight. So I firmly swallowed my next words and went back to the classroom. Mian and Reina were talking to Satoko like they always did. It was a silly conversation. A humorous, even fun one, like it was any old day. If Satoko really said she could endure it, then maybe I should do as Rika did and watch her. Maybe whatever help I offer will just go unwanted. Okay, why don't we all have lunch? Meep. It's been a while since we've been all 5 of us. This is really how it has to be. Here. Come on, you two. Okay, bring your desk over. Satoko brought her own desk as well, grinning broadly. Even knowing nothing had been resolved, this exchange was pleasant and made me remember how fun it used to be. I can't have Rika making a bento for me forever. I don't mind. I have fun making your bento. Rika's such a good girl. Having such a good friend must be so reassuring. I put in the big steak, and Satoko puts in the burnt stuff. So if it was just Satoko, it would be so sad, so very sad. Ipa. I take it back. She's Rika after all. Come on, look! I've got omelet rice today. Mushrooms and stuff are delicious, delicious. Ow! I say it every time, but your craftsmanship is splendid. You can become a wife whenever and not have a problem. A wife? Eating a wife? Ow! Using the word wife is totally forbidden around Reina. Please don't say it again. I'll think about what I've done a little. By the way, what's in your lunch, Mion? It looks different again today. We're all waiting in anticipation. It's a rich assortment of side dishes left over from what my uncle brought last night. The stew looks really great, huh? The color of the radishes, too. Really good, right? Wow, looks delicious. Stew tastes best when it's left overnight. This looks like it would be really good. And so there'll be none left for Satoko. I'll eat it all and tell you what I think, so just be quiet and watch. What was that? Hand over my portion too. Elbow, punch, headbutt. I'll use my knees too. Yar! Oh! At close range like this, my advantage is unwavering. Huh. Keiichi, the daikon in your portion tastes really good. Damn it. Coming right at me from the start and using a combo attack. How humiliating. This little exchange, how long it had been. It looked like they ended up going with the wait and see approach, but maybe her uncle had realized he'd gone a little too far and would dial it back now. If her treatment improved a little, would that be a good thing? Satoko was grinning wider than I'd ever seen as she chomped down on her mouthful of the daikon she'd plundered from me. Did it really taste that good? Satoko was somewhat cute like that. And just as I'd done many times, I grabbed her head and started petting it. Catch! Huh? Satoko? It was so sudden that for a moment I didn't know what had happened. The back of my hand was stinging. I went to pet Satoko's head and then she hit my hand? What's wrong, Satoko? Satoko was scratching at her head as though a pimple or something had appeared on it. It was so sudden, so unprovoked that I didn't understand what happened. What's wrong, Satoko? At some point, her body had been covered in a thin layer of sweat, and her breathing had turned ragged. When I pet her head, did she not like it? Was that what it meant? Did you just like being petted? Once again, slowly, I held out the palm of my hand and brought it close to Satoko's head. The instant the palm of my hand touched her head, there was a shock, like static electricity, and Satoko began to howl. Slam. She grabbed my arm in both hands, as if flinging off a snake trying to cling to her. As if trying to throw away something dirty, she threw it violently. It happened too suddenly for me to react. I hit the desk behind me and both it and I fell to the floor. The classroom fell deathly silent. As Satoko bellowed, it sounded like she was in the throes of death, and she unsteadily backed away. Then she threw up the food she'd just eaten. She vomited all back up. Splish! The sound of Satoko's vomiting hit the floor, rang through the classroom. Are you okay, Satoko? You seem sick. I reached out a hand and she swatted it away with all her might. With such extreme strength that I fell onto the floor again. Satoko put both heads on her hands as though protecting it, groaned some more, and took a few steps back. And then she began swinging both hands around. Students in nearby seats were forced to evacuate. She grabbed anything within reach, bento boxes, chairs, threw them, tossed them, flung them about. Stop it, Satoko! What's wrong with you? She screamed out as if beyond words had caused her physical pain. One moment. No one spoke a word to her. All the students were withdrawing behind us, leaving Satoko alone in the corner of the classroom. Around her, there were desks and chairs all over the floor, bento laid scattered. It was terrible. All I could hear was Satoko's ragged breaths and the voices of the cicadas. Sorry. The strings of tension loosened around Satoko, and maybe she suddenly grew scared of her own actions, because she started trembling and gave a word of apology. But nobody knew just who that apology was directed towards. So for now, I decided to answer for everybody. No, it's fine. Are you all right? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Our words didn't match each other at all. Satoko hugged her shoulders and back she went. Bang. She ran into the locker with the cleaning supplies in it. Even that made her give a little yelp. The impact caused the bucket atop the locker to fall, making a loud sound, and that scared Satoko most of all. She almost jumped out of her skin, grabbing a bunch of the curtain in her hands. Nobody spoke to her. They could only look, not remembering to blink. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was... Satoko, what? What on earth? I stood up, took a step away from everyone, and approached Satoko. What happened? I said, I don't know. I don't know! You're wrong. You're wrong. Please stop. Please. Please. Forgive me. Just calm down. Satoko, do you know who I am? No more. No more. I hate this. I hate this. Every time I took a step forward, she grasped the curtains more tightly and cried, Satoko, it's me. It's Keiichi. Don't you recognize me? I would never ever hurt you. No! right. I'm your friend. Help. Help me. I don't want to be scared. I feel bad. No. I don't. Suddenly my shoulders were grabbed and I was dragged backwards. It was Reina. Sorry, Kay. You get a little farther back. After pulling me back, she ran towards Satoko in my place. It's okay, Satoko. There's nothing to be scared of. Please don't worry. No. No more. No more. Help. Help me. Nini. Help me. As she gripped the curtains and kept calling for her Nini, she continued to wail about being forgiven for something and to be saved from something. What is this? Mia gnashed her teeth and groaned, and there were tears falling from her firmly closed eyes. What the hell? What is this? Didn't this come to an end yesterday? Weren't we supposed to go back to our old lives? Mion! Crash. There was a crazy sound. Reina had taken the cleaning supply locker and kicked it to the ground. Everyone stood surprised at Reina's unexpected act of brutality. After that, Reina embraced the bawling Satoko from behind and started crying with her stifled. Reina, what's wrong? Sorry. Keiichi, be quiet for a minute. What is it now? What happened? What did Satoko tell you? What did you hear? Shut the hell up! I told you to shut your mouth, asshole! Reina's raw, hostile emotion hit me like a brick. It was no more than a momentarily howl of emotion for Reina, but it was more than that for me. She had shown me what was behind all that emotion, what was in her heart. Satoko. No more. No more. Forgive us. We couldn't do anything for you. Forgive us. Nini. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Forgive us for being unable to do anything. Reina's words made me feel as though the blood vessels in the back of my head were suddenly turning to ash. My vision grew distant, blurred with gray, and the world lost its color. I thought we could save Satoko. But though I knew it'd be the sooner for the better, I thought there was no time limit for doing that. I never even dreamed that we could be too late. I'd been making a huge mistake. I thought Satoko could be hurt, but never that she'd break. It was such a huge mistake. People, they break. Thinking that they don't is absolutely stupid. I don't like the word absurd. We needed to save Satoko. We needed to save her before she broke. That fatal lapse in awareness had brought this on. Whose fault was it? That went without saying. Mine, no, ours. We all took the duty of saving Satoko, but we were negligent to the point of laziness. In that sense, this was an inevitable result. Even if this didn't happen today, and it happened tomorrow, or the day after, or next week, we would have just sat around doing nothing until that day. So this was the obvious result. I slumped down to my knees, just as Mion and Mika had done, and I too closed my eyes tight and couldn't stop myself from sobbing. What is all the noise about? Wait, what happened? The teacher came and her face screwed up at the terrible spectacle before her. The instant she realized the teacher was here, Satoko went through another complete change. She wiped her face with the curtains and, like nothing happened, smiled. Hojo-san? What on earth is going on here? I just got a little squabble with Reina is all. We went a little crazy over our lunches, right? Reina didn't nod in reply, but then, since Satoko wished it, she nodded without strength. The rest of the class couldn't keep up with her extreme change. We all just stared in a daze. It was just a little horseplay. It scared everyone out of their wits. Satoko would probably sweep the whole thing under the rug. For what? Her heart is torn to pieces, so what else? You wanted your needy to help, didn't you? But unfortunately for you, Satoshi doesn't ever intend on coming back. Yeah, because he's dead. It's never that easy. He won't just conveniently show up and save you. So you don't have to wait for him anymore. You can cry, beg for help. You can run. We can't do anything, Mion suddenly said. She spoke then, those few words that had tormented me countless times. Those words were a spell, and when I heard them, my whole body suddenly regained its calm. My emotions all slipped away like they'd never been there, like a wave departing. And then the world's color flipped inside out. My field of view expanded. My head grew remarkably cold, and I felt like my mind's volume had grown ever wider than the classroom we were in. At that time, my soul was doubtlessly no longer in the small, petty vessel of my head, but floating in the air a little bit above it. It was a mysterious feeling of release. I broke free of the cramped confines of my skull and stretched out my roots in all directions as far as I wanted. It was a strange feeling, and one I've never felt before. An odd sense of exhilaration. My sharpened senses caused me to transcend. My mind was sharper than a knife's edge. And I immediately decided that spending the time to let myself be crushed with grief would be an absolute waste. I erased all the garbage information from my brain. I expelled the pointless emotions presenting obstacles to action. Mion, you curse it all you want. Curse our powerlessness as much as you want. Huh? If I could have taken back what had happened by crying about it, I would have cried all day. But the fact was this. This was how things turned out. I couldn't take back what had happened. The top priority then would be to prevent the situation from worsening further and to sever the chains of misfortune. Until today, I've been looking at things so narrow-mindedly I could scarce believe it. To save Satoko, the only thing to do was to save Satoko. That's a weird sentence. That's the only thing I thought about. I didn't allow myself to realize the most basic direct and certain way of removing the source of Satoko's unhappiness. No, actually I realized it yesterday. But as for the means, I'd relied on some stupid curse from some dumb deity. I never considered carrying out the task myself. I would obliterate Satoko's uncle. There were plenty of ways to do it. This was a task that held infinite methods. Ironically, the method of saving Satoko required mostly money, but the method of killing that man pretty much took no money at all. I could kill him with the least amount of investment. The least amount of money suited him. It was the weight of his life. I kept eliminating needless, worthless information from my head, replenishing it with the only knowledge that I needed to achieve my goal. I used every cell in my brain to think about how I'd kill him. The way I killed him didn't matter. I would allow any method from whatever time and whatever country as long as it ended in a quick and certain death. If I would have an additional condition, it would not get caught. Removing him was an act designed to return the peaceful times we had with Satoko. If I was arrested in exchange for the removal, then we might as well have killed each other. With only him gone, we'd have gone back to our normal lives. That was my supreme objective. My ultimate goal. Kill him. Definitely. But definitely don't leave evidence either. Two alternatives at odds with another. The condition of not leaving a trace back to me automatically narrowed the number of murder methods. No witnesses was an absolute must. Fortunately, given the right time in Hinamizawa, there would be nobody around. I mentally reconstructed the land around Satoko's house. The number of pedestrians, different at different times, the movement algorithm of the neighbors. Would I lure him out or charge at him? What would my weapon be? When and where would I carry this out? Where it needed to be somewhere I wouldn't leave a trace. When it needed to be as soon as possible for Satoko's safety, without wasting even a millisecond. This is absurd. Completely absurd. When I thought about it in this way, it struck me how easy the act of killing was. If I could leave evidence, if I was going to just kill him, anyone could easily turn into a murderer. But our reason prevented that. It told us doing so would get us arrested for sure. In the end, being arrested by the police was the final thing preventing people from committing homicide. Absurd. If you went all the way out into the very middle of the ocean, you wouldn't leave any trace at all. Anyone would drop those they hated into the depths if they knew that. That's not true. It was all too easy to simply remove him. I could leave class right now, grab a bat, or something from the school guard, go to his house, attack him. Estimated time, 25 minutes. If I wanted us to kill each other, it wouldn't even be minutes. I could do it in 1,500 seconds. I knew just how much his continued existence depended on me. He was nothing. I could expel him from this world within just 1,500 seconds after making up my mind. From when I decided what to do, he only had 1,500 seconds. Actually, if I ran full speed to his house, that number would go down even further. But he was alive. He was still part of this world at the very moment, having torn Satoko's body to mind to shreds. Why? Because I was letting him live. I was permitting him to live so he was alive. If I rescinded that permission, he would be evacuated this mortal coil within 1,500 seconds. You'd think I'd let you live to breathe even 1,500 seconds more of air? I'm taking that permission back right here, right now. You'd better thank me for letting you live until today. However, I actually needed more than 1,500 seconds. I'm not just going to end you. Getting back our old lives is far more important. It's only you I'll be cleanly cutting out of this world. They won't find a culprit. I'll forget that I dirtied my hands on the lakes of the U.S. naturally as I brush my teeth before bed. So to do that, I'll make a special exception for you and give you more than 1,500 seconds. I'll give you a special permission to keep on living as you have until I can construct the perfect plan for your murder. Wait, you can't let that time go to waste. I know. I'll kill him quickly. I'll remove him with certainty. I won't misuse any time to think of a plan. Think. Back. Tomorrow is Wada Nagashi, isn't it? Last year, on the night of the Wada Nagashi, her aunt died. Her head was busted open by some deviant and her brain splattered everywhere. That's it. He's someone who deserves to be given death on the night of the Wada Nagashi. Hey, Oyashiro-sama? You call yourself a guardian, but you didn't protect Satoko. Cursing Satoko's family for the damn stuff is your own business. But now you've made Satoko unhappy when she didn't have anything to do with it. I, Maibara Keiichi, hereby denounce you, the guardian deity of Hinamizawa, a failure. We don't need you. Go back to the deepest, darkest part of your shrine this year. Besides, if you had just cursed and killed both her and her aunt last year, none of this would have ever happened. The curse this year is not on you. I'll be the one deciding. It won't be the three families controlling the serial deaths behind the scenes now. Not some vague people who I can't tell if they're buffoons or not this time. I'll be the one to deliver a divine judgment. So don't get in my way, just watch. Stay quiet and watch. I'll obliterate him. I'll wipe him off the face of the earth. I'll stomp him out of very existence. Go away. Disappear. Die! I'll tear your heart apart just like you did to Satoko. I'll have your blood as payment. Brr. Damn. Keiichi, are you alright? Reina, Mion, and Rika were looking at me. Had I fallen to the floor? You surprised us. You suddenly fell down. Were you having a nightmare? You were moaning. Shut it. Quit speaking at me like that. Ooh, is he possessed? He's possessed by a demon. He's possessed by Oyashiro-sama already, and he doesn't know it. What? Reina and the others, they exchanged glances, unsure of what to say, and stood confused for a moment. Was that your voice, Keiichi? Of course it was. Reina gulped firmly and opened her mouth. For a second, Keiichi, your eyes were really scary. My eyes? Probably just a trick of the light. Don't waste my time. I'm not mistaken. I've never seen those kinds of eyes before. I actually just had a thought. I do think it's mostly people, but Mion said she was possessed by a demon. I don't know if it's an actual demon, but if Reina was possessed in the first book, Mion was possessed in the second book. What if Keiichi's possessed in the third book? Because the eyes is a thing. Like, Reina always had those eyes. I hate them. Mion had those eyes. I hate them. Of course, we're not going to see Keiichi's because he's the protagonist, but it's an interesting thought. I still think it's mostly people. It could be something a little bit supernatural as well going on, but I think it's mostly people. But it could be like they're directing the demon. What were these guys talking about? They've been all too scared of me lately. You are Keiichi Maibara, right? What was Reina saying? Who else do I look like except Keiichi? The look I gave her seemed to speak quite eloquently to those irritated thoughts. She understood and quickly apologized. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. Bum bum bum. Right. Well, that's it for tonight. My voice cannot take any more. So I will leave you guys with that and bid you a good night.